We're joined now by the royal correspondent, Jenny Bond. Jenny, very good morning to you. The dust has settled a little bit, specifically regarding the sort of revelations about Prince Andrew. What do we know?
Well, we don't know that much new in terms of fresh allegations, but we know a lot more detail about the allegations that have been knocking around now for years and years. These unsealed documents relate to a court case brought by Virginia Giuffre, to whom, you might remember, Prince Andrew paid out a certain amount of money, don't know quite how much, but millions of pounds, to settle a case out of court. And it's details from a case she brought some years ago that have now been unsealed. So we know that it's full of sleaze, if you like, and it's not just Prince Andrew. It's a lot of other big names, as you've probably seen, President Clinton, other extremely important people who were associated with Epstein. For Andrew, it is an eternal embarrassment and shame. For the royal family, it is another morning of opening the newspapers. You can only feel sympathy, I think, for King Charles, opening the papers and think, oh my God, this time last year, I had Harry all over the papers with his book, and now it's my brother. Really shaming the royal family, because I don't think people abroad really know the difference between a working royal and a non-working royal. We all know, I think, that Andrew is a non-working royal because he's been sacked, essentially, by his late mother. But nevertheless, the sleaze, I think, sticks to the whole of the royal family, and it must be immensely depressing.
It must indeed, and I agree with you. Buckingham Palace has been very quiet about that, saying that Prince Andrew is a non-working royal. But at the end of the day, he is the King's brother. And the King has extended the olive branch. He has allowed him back in to the family, or to be seen with the family. We saw them at Christmas, for example. He was desperate in some ways to rehabilitate him into the family. Also changed his mind on whether he should be thrown out of that royal residence. What does the King do from here?
Well, I think he has to remain taking a very firm line against Andrew, and there's clearly no way back whatsoever for Andrew in a public role. And I think he has been, pushing at doors and thinking there might be a way back. At the coronation, you might remember, he was allowed to wear his garter robes, which surprised me, I must say, but he wasn't allowed to go to the garter ceremony. He'll be allowed at no public functions whatsoever, but as you say, he is his blood brother, and the King is actually quite a softie. He's a sentimental man. He cares deeply. Charles is really all about love and peace and harmony. You can almost imagine him, wearing flowers in his hair and smoking a joint and saying peace and love. It's so I don't think he's going to banish Andrew, but he must be utterly depressed, and I think the relationship between the two of them must be pretty damn frosty.
Yeah, and you just imagine the conversations they'll be having now. Look, from Prince Andrew's perspective, there was almost that sort of a hint of rehabilitation over Christmas, and now so much of it comes unpicked. His front page of the papers. None of the royal family will want that. Prince Andrew presumably has learned from his mishandling of this when he did that Newsnight interview. How do you think he's going to navigate the next few days and weeks?
Has he learned? Has he learned? Andrew isn't someone who takes to lessons very easily, from all that I know of him. He's a very arrogant man, and he's been traumatized by this, I'm quite sure, and very depressed by it. He's kept a very low profile, but the rumours abound and reports abound that he has been knocking on doors and saying, let me in, I want a way back. He's refusing really to accept just how much disgrace he's in. And not just that, he's a laughing stock really after Newsnight. He became a laughing stock in the country. So I don't think he's a man with a great deal of self-awareness, but he's going to have to face the fact that he has a lovely family, has a beautiful house, which may or may not remain his, in Windsor Great Park, and he's just got to get on with his life quietly.
And you mentioned there, it was a very strong word, actually, he's a very arrogant man. And also the pressure coming from people like William and Kate, for example, to the King saying you must distance yourself from him.
Yeah, I think William has been at the forefront of this. Perhaps being a nephew isn't quite so close as being a brother. And William certainly was one of those who, a couple of years ago, when the Queen really wanted to let Andrew, the late Queen, wanted to let Andrew take part in the Garter ceremony at Windsor, he said, no, absolutely not. Look, if he is allowed to take part in the ceremony, I will not. He actually issued an ultimatum, we understand. So I think he will be absolutely standing resolute with his father and saying, no way back, and let's take a very firm line on this. You know, William tries so hard, and Charles has, to make this new era of monarchy a good one, and a relatable one, and an approachable and friendly and decent one. And then it all gets unpicked by these headlines. And it's not just today. I mean, the headlines have been going on for a week, and they'll probably continue. I see. It's like something that's stuck to his shoe, isn't it? Really, Andrew is never going to be able to shake off the stench of this sleaze.
I think that's such a brilliant way of describing it. It literally is following him around. Jenny, you understand how this family operates, and also, you know, you've seen how these stories play with the public. How much do the public really care about what kind of role Prince Andrew takes on?
I think they would care if they saw him standing on the balcony and waving and taking part, perhaps representing the king in places. I think he is not a fit ambassador for this country, and that is essentially what the senior members of the royal family do. They represent the king and they represent this country, and I don't think people would be very happy to have Andrew representing us.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed for your time.